Hey everybody, it's Jen. Welcome back to the channel. Today is going to be very chill. I have tons of questions that you sent me on Instagram about my most recent sailing on the Disney Dream. I just got off the ship yesterday. I'm not gonna lie, I'm a little travel fatigued, but you guys had so many great questions and I know a lot of you are cruising very soon. So I wanted to get to the frequently asked ones as quickly as possible. I will have a whole series of videos coming out about this cruise, tips and tricks for cruising in general. But today we're gonna focus on the things that you need to know right now before you sail on Disney Cruise Line. And I'm really excited that you're here. So first of all, the trip was amazing. The cruise was spectacular. I have no regrets. I am so glad that I went. To get ready to film this video today, I was a little like, am I ready to do this? Because, you know, I don't know if y'all do this, but when I first get home from traveling, it just kind of takes me a minute to get my head back in the game of my real life. But I love you guys and I knew you had burning questions, so I wanted to get to them right away. There will be many videos coming out about this cruise. I didn't film it kind of like a traditional trip vlog, but more like tips and tricks. So I'm going to be doing a whole video on exactly what happened when I got to the port, the testing process, a whole video on dining, a whole video on activities aboard the ship, and then a separate whole video about solo cruising. So I may briefly touch on those things, but I'm not going to go super in depth. So definitely subscribe, definitely hit those bell notifications. And if you like this video, please make sure you give it a big thumbs up. So of course, your main questions, which does not surprise me at all, were all around COVID. And the first question I got actually put it very succinctly: are there COVID requirements for boarding the ship? And oh my goodness, yes, there are many, many, many COVID requirements. There was a lot for me to do prior to boarding the ship. As of this filming, and this is very important because things are changing rapidly, as we know, it is required that all guests 12 and over be vaccinated and provide proof of vaccination before sailing through the Safe Passage website. I had to upload a photograph of my actual vaccination card. It is also required for adults that you take a rapid COVID test when you arrive at the port. And for children, they have to take a COVID test a few days prior. I'm not totally up to date on that information since obviously I wasn't sailing with children, but if you have a child 12 and younger that is sailing, you definitely want to check out those requirements. I actually witnessed a family be denied boarding because they had not done that test that was required for their kids. So kids have to have a test prior to boarding, and then they also have to have the rapid test before they can get on the ship. I was very nervous about all the paperwork. There was a QR code that was provided to me by Safe Passage, as well as a QR code that was provided to me by Disney. And a friend had suggested that I print those things out rather than relying on my phone. That proved to be brilliant because I didn't have to worry about cell service or whatever. I could just quickly have an actual piece of paper with the QR codes. I double and triple checked everything. I have never felt like I had to do more to go on a trip, or that and never have I been like more anxious that I had screwed something up. So I felt fairly confident. My sweet travel agent, Kim, and I will put her information below, was great because I would call her and be like, I don't know that I did this right. And there was a whole thing with my passport that I'll get into another time. I ended up feeling kind of like an idiot about, but whatever. So yes, there are COVID requirements before you ever board the ship. And I'm not going to lie to you guys, I was really nervous about that test. I had a whole plan B that if I had tested positive, because even though I am now triple vaccinated because I had the 2 Pfizer vaccination and I did qualify for a booster, which I got about 10 days before our trip, you know, you still have that, well, but maybe there's always a chance of a breakthrough infection and you don't really know for sure. I had even done a rapid test here at home the day before I traveled. So, I mean, I had every reason to believe it would be negative, but when you're sitting there in the tent, it's a little nerve-wracking. I will tell you, and there will be more details on this when I do that video, but I needn't have been worried about the process at the port. Of course, Disney had it completely streamlined. It was very well organized. It was very obvious what I was supposed to do. And that entire process took about 35 minutes from start to finish. And I was in the cruise terminal and everything was green for go. And I was a happy camper just waiting to get on the cruise ship. So lots of requirements. Make sure you are aware before you book. They have had quite a few last minute deals, which is fantastic. I actually was able to take advantage of one of those, which is why this trip came on rather suddenly. I was originally not scheduled to sail until February, but I moved it up because I got such a great deal. But yeah, just be aware, lots of COVID requirements, and you want to read everything that Disney tells you, because just because this is what was required for my sailing, that doesn't mean that that is what is going to be required for yours. Okay, the next question that I got asked multiple times is, what is the mask policy on the ship? You must wear your mask at all indoor areas unless actively eating or drinking and in a stationary position, okay? So you can't just walk around with a cup in your hand and not have to, wear your mask. They did require masks for character photos. I wasn't quite clear. They did allow us to remove our masks for pictures, like if we were stationary. I wasn't totally clear on the policy with that, but I did that several times, just like at the parks, and no one ever told me that that wasn't okay. So that might be a bit of a guideline, as they say. But by and large, masks required, indoors. Outdoors, on the decks, by the pools, no masks required. And in the dining room, as soon as you were seated at your table, you were able to remove your mask. Now, masks are required in all of the theaters. So whether you're watching a movie or watching one of the amazing Broadway shows on the ship, Broadway style shows on the ship, you're going to be wearing your mask the entire time. And they were very clear that even if you had a beverage in the theater, which people would walk in with drinks, you could only take your mask down to take a sip and then put it right back up. And we heard that over and over and over again. Also, social distancing, and I'll get to that more in just a second, that was strongly enforced on the ship as well. So absolutely very strict mask requirements. And again, outdoors though, you were totally fine to not have your mask on, and that was lovely. Honestly, I would say that the pool areas and out on the decks and all that felt exactly like a Disney cruise has always felt, except for a lot less crowded. And I'll get to that in just a minute. Oh, look, it's the next question. Capacity, was the ship full? Not in any way. Now, I was able to find out, and this was kind of a rumor. I did not look this up through a government website, so anyone who needs to correct me, feel free to do so in the comments below, preferably, with some specificity to it. But I was told that they are allowed to be at 70% capacity right now. Our sailing, the Disney Dream holds 4,000 or just under 4,000, and we had 1,600 on our sailing. So well below 50% capacity. And I will tell you, that was fabulous. There were never crowded areas. There was plenty of room for everyone. There were plenty of lounge chairs. I never had to wait for anything, never had to wait for a meal. I ordered room service multiple times. It was always there in less than 15 minutes. The level of service that we were able to experience, even above and beyond the normal Disney experience, just because of the fact that they were so, the capacity was less than 50%, was amazing. I don't think I'll ever be able to experience that again on Disney Cruise Line. But yeah, they are not sailing at full capacity. And really, I don't think they could because of the reduced capacity in the theaters and things like that. I don't think you could do too many people would miss out on too many things. But yeah, very, very low capacity on my sailing. Okay, so I'm going to move into a different topic, and we will absolutely go back to some of the COVID protocols in just a second. But I also got tons of questions about sailing as a solo cruiser. Now, although I have traveled solo a lot, I've traveled to Europe by myself multiple times. I've traveled to Disney World by myself, Disneyland by myself, Hilton Head, South Carolina by myself, all over the place, Arizona by myself, San Diego by myself. I had never done a Disney cruise by myself. I'd never done a cruise by myself at all. And that was mostly because usually it's cost prohibitive. There are a few cruise lines that offer what they call a single supplement, but usually you have to pay for a cabin for 2 people. Now, I did have to pay for a cabin for 2 people, but because I had such a great discount, it brought it down to a price that I could actually justify it. So just so you're aware, I paid just under $1,700 for the 4-night sailing, which for a Disney cruise, I felt like was very reasonable when you consider everything that is included. And for once, I felt like I could justify sailing alone. So the question that I got that kind of encompasses a question that a lot of you guys asked is, will people who enjoy solo trips to Walt Disney World enjoy solo cruising? And also, do you have any solo cruise tips? So I will do a whole video on solo cruising, but I can just answer definitively, yes, you will enjoy it. If you have any hesitation, just do it. Now, I was in my veranda stateroom more than I might have been if I were traveling with someone else. But in a way, it kind of felt like it was on a private yacht, if I'm going to be honest, because I would order room service and I would sit on my veranda and read. And I absolutely ate in the dining room every night by myself, and the servers were so fantastic that it honestly felt like I was dining with friends. It didn't feel weird. It didn't feel awkward. On the adult deck of the ship, there were lots of people by themselves because people are either traveling with extended family or their kids are in the kids club or whatever. So that never felt weird even once. The only times that I felt a little sad were when I was kind of out on the deck parties and things like that. Obviously, with the social distancing, I wasn't able to chat with fellow cruisers as much as I normally am, although I will say there was no social distancing in the adults-only indoor areas of the ship, and obviously that was because everyone was fully vaccinated. So in the bars and in the district lounge area, I could be sitting right next to someone at the bar, and I did have a lot of great conversations. In fact, I met a wonderful new friend, Caroline. We ended up eating dinner together one night. So that made it not strange, although I will say that the family areas, everything was social distanced. So for instance, at the theater in the evening, I always had at least 3 people or 3 empty chairs between me and the people next to me. So those felt a little isolating, but by and large, it was amazing. Like, I wish there was a way for me to justify the cost of sailing alone, because no regrets. I absolutely loved every moment. Again, I'll have way more to share about solo cruising in the separate video that I do about that. But if you're on the fence about it, don't be. Just do it. You won't regret it. You'll love it. And anytime I felt a little bit insecure, I would channel like my inner Queen Latifah from The Last Holiday. Remember in that movie when she was off at the great, resort where she was in the mountains by herself and so fabulous. And yeah, I felt a little extra, but in all the best ways. Okay, back to more COVID questions. What isn't operating and what is still open? Okay, so the spa is probably the area where I noticed the biggest things that were not operating, and the spa services actually had just started the sailing before mine. So I was able to get my full spa service. I scheduled something that's usually $250. It was discounted for $150 on our departure day, which was great. It was like a facial, a 50-minute massage, a scalp massage. It was wonderful. But they don't have you going to the changing rooms. The locker rooms are closed and the spa showers are closed. They actually take you to the treatment room and just have you change your clothes there, which actually I didn't mind. Just kind of skipped a step and that was no problem. I did not have to wear my mask during my treatment. The thing that was closed, well, not closed, but changed, was the rainforest room, which especially on the Disney Dream has always been one of my favorite things to do, because you have those jacuzzis that overlook the ocean and all of that. But it was only available by appointment, and it was $179 for an hour and 45 minutes, and that was for yourself and up to 10 people traveling with you. So I couldn't justify that just by myself, although that would have been an amazing experience. But normally what Scott and I do is we buy the length of cruise pass for the rainforest room, but they were only doing the rainforest room in, in scheduled time. So that was kind of a bummer. Other things that weren't operating that I missed a little bit were like they weren't selling popcorn and drinks as you walked into the theater, which is something they normally do that I always enjoyed either at the movie or at the, the Broadway style shows. But by and large, especially if you've never sailed before, you're not going to notice what's not operating because there are so many things that are operating just like normal, that the few things that were missing, I didn't, again, other than the rainforest room, I didn't really notice. The one thing that was kind of a bummer was because of capacity in the theaters, they were running the same shows alternating nights. So instead of having 4 shows, which normally is what they would do, or at least 3 that were different, they only had 2 shows. They had Believe and Beauty and the Beast, and they ran Believe 2 nights and they ran Beauty and the Beast 2 nights. That way everyone on the ship had the opportunity to see it, and they would still do, the 2 show times, but they only had 2 shows total. The other thing that was different was they had fireworks 2 nights, but you were assigned a night. And also they did the Mickey Masquerade Party. They did that, I think, 3 nights of the cruise because they had very limited capacity. That event, people were socially distanced because obviously, again, that includes children. So that's what you really noticed is anytime children would be present who could not be vaccinated, they were very strict about the social distancing. And I found that very comforting. If I were a parent sailing with an unvaccinated child, I would feel very safe, probably safer than they are anywhere else, again, because all of the adults were vaccinated. So they were fastidious about all of that sort of thing. And again, the few things that weren't operating, honestly, I mean, I kind of missed the big sail away party. I really missed the evening, the thing they do the last night, the goodbye kiss kind of performance. So there was nothing where people gathered in mass in the atrium. They didn't have like the captain's drink hour or anything like that, but that was actually totally fine with me. And again, so many other amenities were up and running that it wasn't like you ran out of things to do. Okay, I had a lot of people ask me about the best stateroom location. I've sailed on the Disney Dream now 3 times, and the other 2 times I sailed, I stayed deck 5 one time and deck 6 one time, kind of midship. This time I was 10 aft, and I have decided that is my new absolute favorite cabin location. I'm going to do a whole video with a cabin tour, some tips and tricks about kind of living on the ship and how the cabin operated, what I packed, all of that. But the fact that I was right below cabanas, I was a little concerned that I might hear noise. Didn't hear a thing. Literally did not hear a thing from cabanas. I think a couple of nights maybe I heard like a cart being rolled, but certainly nothing that would have interrupted my sleep. I loved that I could just go up 1 flight of stairs. I could be at the coffee station, the drink station, cabanas, the ice cream, anything that I wanted. You really do spend a lot of time on deck 11 on the Disney Dream. So being on deck 10 meant I rarely, if ever, had to use the elevators. And it was just fantastic. Absolutely loved the 10 aft location. Quite a few of you asked about the buffet situation, and I'm happy to report that unlike my experience at Disneyland at a buffet, the crew members were serving you at cabanas. You would point to what you wanted, you would tell them what you wanted, and they would fill your plate all along the line. There was never a point at which the guests were serving themselves. And that was true of everything from the fruit to all of the drink stations. The crew members would fill your cup for you. You could use your own cup and they would fill it for you. But there was, you never actually touched utensils. You never helped yourself. Even everything from the muffins, the croissants, everything the crew members would handle and give to you. So that was actually quite amazing, and I definitely appreciate it. I actually hope that they keep it that way all the time. I have sailed on Viking Cruise Line, and this is how Viking does all of their buffets. And I just think even, COVID aside, it's a much more hygienic way to have a buffet. So Disney Cruise Line, if you're listening, again, we know Disney always listens to me. No, they don't. We really would like to have that be something that continues on in the future, because I felt like it was just far less likely that anyone would get sick from one another. And as you know, on cruise ships, there's other things you can get sick from other than just, coronavirus. So yeah, really, really love the buffet situation. So the big question is, overall, is it worth it to sail right now? I think 100% hands down it is. I have to tell you, I have traveled more than most since I've been vaccinated, just because I don't have any kids at home. Everyone in our family is vaccinated. And I will say that this was the most like a normal vacation that any traveling has felt since before this whole thing started. The crew members were amazing. The food was amazing. The experiences were great. Castaway Cay, I mean, I can do a whole video for you guys if you want just on Castaway Cay. All of it, especially with the lowered capacity of the ship, hands down, the best vacation that I've had. I loved cruising solo. Again, I'll do a whole video about that whole side of the experience. And I personally would not hesitate to sail again. In fact, if my travel agent were to email me tomorrow and say, hey, there's a great cruise fair in January, would you want to go? I would go again in a heartbeat. Had a fabulous time. And again, because everyone on the ship was vaccinated, because everyone had had a COVID test before they got on board. I mean, except for the unvaccinated would of course be, you know, the kids under 12. I honestly did not worry about COVID. And I have to say, to be able to be on vacation and not worry about it was quite amazing. If you had asked me when this whole thing started, would cruising feel like the safest choice right now? I would have said absolutely not. But Disney is handling everything so beautifully. And honestly, I think all of the cruise lines are right now, because their very existence depends on this going well. So they're very vested in making sure that you feel safe to sail. And yeah, all I can tell you is I had a fabulous time. The things that were missing to me were nothing that made the trip not worth it for me. I would schedule again in a heartbeat, and I can't wait to show you all of the footage from the cruise. So make sure you're subscribed. Make sure you give this video a big thumbs up. If you'd like to support the channel, I did do exclusive blog posts every day of my trip for my patrons, and you can join us over on Patreon using the link below. Whatever you're doing today, be really good to each other, and I can't wait to see you next time. Bye.